嗨，大家好，我是米爱拉，欢迎回来。不知道大家最近有没有看到周董在杜拜买房的资讯哦？这又让我想到，不如我来做一集分享阿联酋买房的情况好了。为什么连周董都想要在那边买房呢？那在阿联酋的话，杜拜其实它只是第二大联邦，最大联邦是阿布达比。所以我在今天的影片呢，我就想要先跟大家聊一聊阿布达比买房的现况。那我非常高兴能够请到我的合伙人 Ben Crompton， 他自己在阿布达比有一间公司，就是专门做房地产买卖的，叫做 Crompton Partners。那我们在这一集呢，会一起聊到阿布达比现在房市的情况，现在是买阿布达比房子的好时机吗？还有就是一些比较实际相关的讯息，包括要买在哪里呢？外国人可以贷款吗？一些买卖的实际上的手续，还有需要注意什么样的地方？所以如果你对投资阿布达比房地产有兴趣的话，一定要看到最后哦。因为毕竟你看在台湾买房，其实它的租金投报率就 1.4%， 你要不吃不喝55年才能够房完你。可是在阿布达比，好的。可是，在阿布达比呢，你的租金投报率是可以高达7到9%的。那如果你好好挑呢，甚至有净投报率7%，真的是跟台湾比起来，不仅房价没那么贵，那租金投报率又比台湾高很多。所以真的是一集非常非常有意义的影片，资讯量很大，所以慎入。但是呢，如果你看到最后，一定会对你在阿布达比买房非常的有帮助。那在影片开始前呢，再请大家帮我按赞、订阅、分享、开启小铃铛，这样你才不会错过我们接下去任何关于海外致富的影片哦。Alright， 希望你也能够一起变有钱。Let's get started.
Hi, this is Mira. I'm the Director of Transparent Property Management. Today I have a special guest, Ben Crompton.
Hello.
Who is the boss of Crompton Partners, and you know we're part of Crompton Partners. And today we're going to talk about something about the sales market in Abu Dhabi. Obviously, it's something that Crompton Partner does very well at. They do very well at leasing and sales. Look at all the awards at the back. So today I'm going to have him talk about how the market in Abu Dhabi is doing and what is the projection of Abu Dhabi sales market. So if you are not yet ready in the market, maybe it's time for you to think about it. All right, Ben.
Thank you for having me, Mira.
Thank you for having me. All right. So can you just give us a bit of introduction to Abu Dhabi's sales market? Now, I guess a lot of people probably will be thinking like, why Abu Dhabi? Why this is a good market to consider? So can you just let us know where we are now in terms of the market? How is it doing?
Okay, so the Abu Dhabi sales market, for those who don't know, the UAE went into its own kind of mini property recession from 2015 because of the oil crisis, and that bottomed out in about 2020. So Abu Dhabi's seen its real estate sort of come from that very low point and is now starting to appreciate in value. We've seen huge gains in Dubai, Abu Dhabi much more modest gains, but it's coming from a very low base. So we think that there's a lot of room for growth right now in Abu Dhabi. Property is very cheap and it's creeping up in value.
So you think if you want to get something that has room for growth and at a good price, now is time to really consider Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, I think Abu Dhabi is kind of unique even in world property, in that the rest of the world, that the property market has pretty much been going up since 2008. We're seeing like Europe falling back now, but the UAE had its own, and actually the Gulf had its own mini property recession, which kept prices of property low for a long time. So now hopefully we'll be able to reap the benefits of that. Right. Yeah, oddly enough, we thought that that COVID would destroy the market completely, but actually it had the opposite effect. It turned the market round in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and that's probably because the policies enacted here attracted a lot of people from places where they didn't agree with the COVID policies. So property appreciates on demand and population increase, and the population of the UAE has grown exponentially since then. Yeah, there were some short-term stimulation policies, one of which was reducing loan-to-value from 25 to 20%, which was a help, and they waived the fees for a certain period of time. But those have been rolled back pretty much. The loan-to-value is still in place, so even with those being rolled back, the market's still very positive.
And obviously, we are already like few years after COVID. What continues to drive the property sales market in Abu Dhabi?
I mean, the only thing that ever drives, really sales and leasing is population growth, is demand. Yeah, I mean, it's a simple supply and demand play. Supply has always been quite limited in Abu Dhabi, unlike Dubai. We add 2 or 3% to the housing stock per year. And so, the government has been really pushing private business, trying to bring companies into Abu Dhabi to try and, boost population and obviously diversify the economy away from oil. So they just brought out the Abu Dhabi census, and population's almost doubled since 2011, up 85%. I think we're just over 3 million as an emirate. Abu Dhabi city is slightly different, but as an emirate.
I would think a lot of people probably think like UAE market or Abu Dhabi market is predominantly driven by Russian buyers, after the Ukrainian war. Do you agree with that?
Certainly at the high end. I mean, there are an enormous number of Russians, and a lot did come to the UAE, but you need a broad-based population increase to be able to drive up everything. And so what's happened in Dubai in particular is the whole market's gone up. In Abu Dhabi, we've had patches of serious increase in prices. Those patches are basically in Saadiyat Island, mostly around Mam Shahid and Saadiyat Beach villas, and those have been driven by Al Maria Island and the ADGM. One of Abu Dhabi's big drives, and you see this in the news all the time, is to try and get more financial managers, more hedge funds, more financial institutions into the Abu Dhabi global market, which is our version of the DIFC. And those people, obviously very high net worth individuals, they want to live close to their work. So it's really driven up prices in Saadiyat. And to a certain extent, yes, the rest of Abu Dhabi, even, places like, Reem Island and Raha Beach have been slower appreciation, but they're starting to turn around now.
How did the market perform in 2023?
Depending on which reports you read, probably anywhere between 3 and 5% in terms of price appreciation. Yeah, more in villas, usually about, most reports will say about 5% for villas and 3% for apartments.
I think we have the stats for Q1 2024 already, right? So how are we doing in 2024?
If you're looking year on year, it's still very similar, and in the quarter, around about 1%.
And would you say you expect to see the same trend in the rest of 2024? Continue to grow like 2-3% per quarter?
No, not 2-3% per quarter, but I would expect around about 5% growth over the year. So you're looking about 1% per quarter, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah. Although we are seeing, and it's normally a lead indicator that rents are going up again, a little bit more aggressively than sale prices at the moment. So hopefully that's a sign that the summer influx, which we always get because of schools, might be bigger this year than it has been in the past. I mean, we see more schools opening, which is a sign that hopefully more businesses are opening, more people are being employed, and the population in Abu Dhabi is growing.
If we have to position Abu Dhabi like property sales market, like why is this place so unique compared to the rest of the world?
I mean, in terms of performance at the moment, our properties are appreciating, whereas I think in a lot of Europe in particular, properties are depreciating. If you look at the UK and France and places like that, property prices down about 5% over the year. US is an outlier. US property prices still going up. So from that perspective, I think Abu Dhabi, in terms of capital appreciation, is still very positive. In terms of rental yield, you still get very good yields in Abu Dhabi. You should be able, if you look around and pick your property, you should be able to get 7% net, which is fantastic. Interest rates, you can quite easily get 4%. Which compared to the rest of the world is very, very good. And of course, if you're a foreign investor, there's no tax on capital appreciation or on the income from the rent, because obviously if you do get serious appreciation in property value, you can close that out and not have to pay what in most of the world is a 40% tax.
That's true, because I think tax is not just only saving you money, but actually save you a lot of hassle, right? And time, like you have to deal with the tax. And then if you miss paying your tax, then there is always a huge penalty.
Don't mess with the tax man.
Yeah, and then I think another thing is like buying process in UAE is relatively straightforward, I would say.
It is. If you're a cash buyer, purchasing a unit that does not have a mortgage on it, you can do it in 2 weeks.
And so to a lot of foreign buyers, a lot of them, they don't even have residency in UAE. Can you just give them a bit of a legal framework or, so that they understand the process of what it takes to do the sales transfer here in Abu Dhabi? Is it something that they need to watch out, have a lot of complications?
It's quite straightforward. Even if you're a non-resident, you can buy property in the UAE, and even a foreign company can buy property in the UAE if you invest through companies. In terms of a mortgage, you can usually get up to 50% mortgage from most banks here, even if you're a foreign buyer, and they just take the credit score that you have from your home country. If you're using finance, most of the banks are obviously reasonably comfortable with foreign buyers. There's quite a few now, and there's actually a move from the Abu Dhabi government to get more foreign direct investment into the real estate market. Companies like Aldar and their off-plan projects are actively targeting, foreign buyers and having roadshows in, UK, Russia, Kazakhstan, India, all over the place. You do need to be physically present or with a power of attorney. But once you attend the municipality and go through the paperwork, you get a piece of paper which is called the title deed with your name on it, showing you are the owner. So it's a relatively straightforward process. If you're using finance, and it's a finance seller as well, maximum 2 months, and that's mostly with the banks doing their work between themselves.
And then you did say that even foreign buyers who don't live here and who don't have source of income here can still get mortgage here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I did help one client, PM client before, but I think back then it was quite limited to the number of banks actually providing mortgage options to foreign buyers who don't have income here. And now we got plenty of options available now in the market.
Yeah,
plenty. I mean, we have HSBC here as well, as a global bank, and they're very active in the mortgage market as well.
And what is the interest rate for foreign buyers who don't live here? Is it higher?
It would be the same.
I mean, there's different deals in different banks, but 4% is definitely achieved. Yeah, it's very safe. I mean, you get freehold now as a foreign buyer in most places. The real estate law is very well embedded now since 2005. People are confident with it, people are comfortable with it, and foreign buyers are buying all the time.
But when we talk about how safe it is to buy, I mean, should we divide the off-plan transaction and then the ready build transaction? Because I think ready build, it's quite straightforward. You see what you get and then you pay the money and that's it. But then how about off-plan? Is it safe to buy off-plan deals in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, it is. It's very easy to buy off-plan if you're a foreign investor. Very, very easy. I mean, they make it incredibly easy. And as long as you're buying from a reputable developer, I mean, your only risk with off-plan is that it won't get completed and the developer will go bust. So as long as you're doing your due diligence on the developer, making sure that you're investing with someone who has deep pockets and has a history of delivering their product, it's very straightforward.
And is there any legal framework to protect in those situations if the developers don't complete their construction?
So all your payments as a buyer go into an escrow account.
It's mandatory now?
It's mandatory, yeah, which is managed by the bank and can only be released once the developer hits certain milestones, and none of it can be released until 20% of the building is already built. So your money is protected in the escrow account, and the developer has to build the first 20% before it can even start taking money out. So there's quite significant protection there.
And what is the usual down payment that the investor have to do?
Between 5 and 10% for the initial down payment, and then you have further down payments, which again are linked to milestones. So the developer can't ask for your next payment until they have hit a milestone, and that's been verified by the escrow account holder.
All right, so it sounds like a good leverage option. If you are having a few investment options and you don't want to miss out Abu Dhabi real estate market, but you want to utilize your finance and other sort of investment products, you can just buy it off-plan, put down a small amount, down payment, wait till it gets complete in 2-3 years time before you have to commit large sum. Yeah,
I mean, you usually need to pay 40% over the life of the project. So if you're buying secondary market, you can buy secondary market usually with 20%, depending on your risk profile. So it can be better to buy secondary market because you'll end up using a smaller amount of money. But the life of the project is 3 years, so you're paying 40% over 3 years pretty much until it's handed over.
But for off-plan sales, it's all done in the developer's office, right? There's no title deed or anything.
So there's no title deed, but in your app, you can see your off-plan purchases. There's a real estate app called Dari that they have in Abu Dhabi, which will show you all the properties that you own, and it will show you your off-plan purchases.
That sounds very safe. Then at least it's still official with the government, right?
Yeah,
not
it
just
is.
like a document sit in the developer's drawer,
True.
saying like, this is the property I own. Okay. And then in terms of like off-plan sales, what are the price points we're looking at? Like how much is the entry point and how much is like, the average price?
I mean, it varies wildly. So you have, studios and some of the cheaper options can be 500,000 dirhams, which is about $140,000. And all the way up, you can buy, huge villas for 40 million dirhams,
Right.
$11-12 million.
Right. So would you say like the sales process in general is just first find an agent, find the property you like, either off plan or ready built, then the agent will go to prepare the MOU, collect security deposit from the buyer to secure the unit, get both parties to sign, and work with developers. If it's off plan, work with developer directly to complete the transfer to you. If it's a ready build, then work with the community management, get an NOC, clear all these payments, then book appointment at ADM to do the sales transfer. For ready build, for off-plan, obviously, it's all done in the developer's office.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And so you either need to be here personally or you need a power of attorney to be in your place.
So it's quite straightforward. This is getting into a bit nitty-gritty. I'm not sure whether you're the
Go
best
ahead.
person
I am the best person.
for everything. So, if we are talking about the cost involved with completing a sales transfer, what are the things that the investors need to consider on top of the purchase price?
So the big one, the big two, broker fee, normally paid by the buyer. Not applicable to off-plan sales because the developer will pay the broker there, but otherwise it's in the secondary market, it's 2% of the value of the property. The other one, which is applicable to built and secondary market, is the transfer fee. In the UK, the equivalent would be the stamp duty. And again, that's 2% in Abu Dhabi. It's 4% in Dubai. There are some other smaller fees. So for example, if you're taking a mortgage, 0.1% of the mortgage will be required as the mortgage registration fee to register the mortgage in ADM. And then if you're buying, it's always applicable, you have your service fees. Now, might need to pay some of these before you transfer, but these are the community charges that are leveraged by the owners charged by the owners association to maintain security, AC in the halls, pool, gym, all that kind of stuff. So those are always applicable. For apartments, they're between 10 and 15 dirhams per square foot, and for villas between 3 and 5 dirhams per square foot.
Okay.
Those are the main fees.
And then also chill water capacity charges if they buy in.
Obviously you have your utilities.
Right.
Yeah. Chilled water can be in place if it's an apartment. So a chilled water is a way of cooling your AC. For villas, mostly the AC is cooled by just electricity.
And I know some development projects, they also charge for the master development fee, right? But
That's in your service charges.
It's already rolled in, so
Yeah.
you need to pay on top of anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously you want to hire a property manager, which is definitely worthwhile to consider.
Yes, hiring a property manager.
It will save you a lot of headache, for sure. So after, let's say, a foreign investor or a buyer and they finish the transaction, what are the risks? Or what are the other things they have to, watch out for?
There's a lot of registrations that you need to make with, and we've spoken about it before, utilities. So you need to make sure that the water and electricity are in your name, that you subscribe to the chilled water provider if there is one, that you subscribe to the gas provider if there is one. Another big thing is the Tawthiq system. So Tawthiq is the government tenancy system. So when you have a tenant in your property, you need to make sure that you and the tenant have signed and issued a tawthiq, so that tenancy is registered with the government. And the tawthiq is really important for tenants if you want to send your children to school, if you want to sponsor a housekeeper, something like that. So that's another, system that you have to be registered with.
And as PM, we have helped many clients with tawthiq issues. Sometimes can be a little bit confusing, but if you have an experienced team like on the ground to do it for you, usually it's also quite straightforward to sort out. And I would assume a lot of the foreign investors, they buy to invest, right? So they would like to get a tenant and to occupy their property.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the process straightforward in Abu Dhabi as well?
In terms of getting a tenant, I mean, you'll need to get a real estate broker to advertise your property, do the viewings, and get a tenant. The process is reasonably straightforward, but the paperwork again is a bit of a headache, because when you buy, you need to put all the utilities into your name. We said water, electricity, chilled water, gas. The tenant will also need to do that as a sub-account to the owner. So again, there's a lot of paperwork to go through, and you're going to need to make sure that you can navigate that, or have a property manager to navigate it for you. Because, yeah, I mean, one of my tenants is leaving at the moment, and to work out between TAM, Dari, and Provis apps. These are 3 property apps that you have, and there used to be Smart Hub. The Abu Dhabi government is doing its best to consolidate and make these things easier, but sometimes it's a nightmare to navigate which app has which information on it. So it is a problem, and it is helpful to have an expert help you out.
Definitely. And if you are unlucky, if you got a bad tenant, is it easy to evict tenant from your property?
Yeah, it is relatively easy. So you can evict a tenant. You can open a court case 21 days after they fail to pay their rent. The court will then give them 15 days to dispute the finding. After those 15 days, you can then move to enforcement and have your tenant kicked out.
Do you need a lawyer here to represent you?
It's probably better to have a lawyer represent you. You can do it yourself. The system is set up, and actually UAE legal system is set up, so a lot of people do represent themselves. However, it's much easier if you're an Arabic speaker. If you're not, you definitely need a translator or a lawyer. But lawyers, are very cheap in Abu Dhabi, and opening legal cases is also very cheap.
And I suppose that is a huge difference to owning a property in Europe, because I know European laws, a lot of time they protect the tenants a lot. Even if the tenants are not paying, you're still restricted to not evict them because of some human rights concern. I think a French property manager told me during winter time, they basically couldn't kick out any tenant because it's against the French law. So would you say that is a plus to own the property in Abu Dhabi for an investor?
I mean, Abu Dhabi laws are very landlord friendly, much more so even than Dubai.
Oh, really?
So in terms of being able to kick your tenant out at the end of a tenancy contract, you just need to give the tenant 2 months notice before the end of the tenancy contract, and you can kick them out for any or no reason. In Dubai, you have to give them a year, and it has to be for a reason, you're going to move into the property or undertake major maintenance. And if you don't move into the property or undertake major maintenance, they can come back to you and claim a year's rent. So Abu Dhabi is very, very pro-landlord in that respect.
And do you see the market change drastically anytime soon in the future?
No, I don't. I mean, Abu Dhabi is growing. We've got some really interesting projects happening at the moment. Hudayrat Island is a fantastic example. It's a massive island just off the coast of Abu Dhabi. Creating a lot more beachfront and that kind of thing. Fahid Island is going to be launched soon again. So we're seeing some really interesting projects launch. Abu Dhabi growth has always been pretty, slow and steady and dependable, predictable to a certain extent. So I don't see any major changes happening anytime soon.
看完这一集，是不是觉得资讯量有一点多呢？ 别担心，我特别准备了阿布达比房产新手懒人包要送给你，所有阿布达比投资房地产的重点都帮你画好画满。另外呢，如果你想要更进一步了解阿布达比房地产的话，现在我也开放可以1对1咨询，全部都是免费的。Alright， 请参考资讯栏。另外，我也很期待能够听到你们对影片或投资房地产的想法，你可以在下面留言或者写信给我，我都会亲自回复。让我们一起变有钱吧！